We have also secured our first market maker, Fibonacci Capital.
Aave just crossed a $1 trillion mark, right? In terms of cumulative lending, right? That's a big number.
The idea is to release this oracle for the whole Kaspa ecosystem, so we want it to be very reliable.
AMMs are not interesting, especially on Kaspa where we have the throughput to go faster.
Supported by Igra Labs, atomic programmability on a Kaspa block DAG.
Kaskad. Use your Kaspa without selling it.
Today, I'm joined by Eliott and Jack from Kascad. Good to see you both.
Hi,
Thank you.
Ankit.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
having
us.
us.
Guys, we connected back in November. Eliott, it was your turn, and we spoke a lot about Oracle, your beautiful Oracle solution that you guys have built, right? Matt's was yours, and obviously, the guys have built the working solution. Fast forward to today, what's cooking at Kascad?
Yeah, a lot has been cooking, I guess. If we are talking about November, I think since then we have released our application on testnet on Igra Galleon, which is a big deal for us because it encompasses everything that we were working for and everything that we have demoed back in Berlin in September. So it's live now, and I'm hopefully going to show it today. We have also released our white paper in V1, so we explain what's our vision, what's the tokenomics behind, what's the technicality behind Kascad. So it's there for the public. We have also nailed our audit firm with Sherlock DeFi. So I'm supposed to receive the final report in a few days from now. So we will also release this. We have also secured our first market maker, Fibonacci Capital, and also officialized the partnership with MEXC for a listing and more that we will reveal in more details as we are nearing Mainnet launch, basically. So yeah.
Beautiful. Lots of things. Who was the market maker you said? Who was the market maker? I didn't hear the name.
Fibonacci Capital.
Fibonacci Capital, right. So that's the
Yeah.
first market maker.
Yes.
And along with MEXC that you guys have announced something, but not fully, right? Due time,
Yes.
you'll announce the rest of the details. Cool. All right. So let me just get straight into it, right? When can we expect Kascad to be out by? I think typically you ask this question towards the
Yes.
end. Let's start.
Sure. Realistically, I think April is the right target for us. We are still depending on external factors, which are having good liquidity assets being deployed on Igra mainnet. So we can't realistically launch a lending without the liquidity. So I believe this is also really in motion now, so it should happen anytime soon. We are obviously waiting for Igra to launch on mainnet, but I'm sure they will, as I promised. So this is just the two external parameters that we are dealing with, and internally we are also waiting for the audit results. Obviously, we cannot launch our product without official audit reports that everything is fine and secure. And finally, we are finalizing the on-chain integration of Eliott's Oracle model that we need to fully stress test on testnet to make sure that it's behaving properly. And I'm sure Eliott can share a bit more about this. But the idea is to release this Oracle for the whole Kaspa ecosystem. So we want it to be very reliable. This is not an internal solution that is only applicable to us. We want it to be used by all the projects in the ecosystem. So it's an important deal. So this is why I'm pushing for April.
Okay, at least we have some approximate date, right? Of course, dates can change and they should change because obviously you need to make sure it's secure. It's, you're not going to lose people's money. So that's the most important part.
Yes.
Completely understand. And I must say, though, I think I'm excited for lending and borrowing on Kaspa Layer 2, because I think one of the stats that I just remembered reading a couple of maybe weeks ago or somewhere, I read that Aave just crossed a $1 trillion mark, right, in terms of cumulative lending volume, right? That's a big number. $1 trillion, right? $1 trillion. So I think from my perspective, it's very important for a healthy ecosystem to have, bunch of lending and borrowing along with swaps. Obviously, swaps are important, but I think lending is more important than even swaps. So let me put it this way, right? For this session, I wanted to have two big topics. I wanted to discuss two big topics, right? First one is with Eliott, with you. Oh, look at the thumbs up. Discuss Aave, and Aave's been in the news lately, right? So I want to discuss a couple of things there. And the second part is with Jack. Like, we'll get to see the demo. I've not seen the demo, so I'm looking forward to see actually, Kascad on testnet. So those are the two things. So let's start with Aave, right? So Aave, $50 million swap incidents that happened, right? Eliott, what's your take? What happened when a user swapped $50 million and got 36,000 on the other side of that swap?
Yeah. So that swap is more of a stupidity from the side of the person who was swapping rather than an error from Aave. So he basically just swapped 50 million on a very illiquid pool, which means that it's not even really slippage, it's more price impact. The price impact was ridiculous. The same way that if he went to buy Kaspa on, I don't know, like a very illiquid SEX and put a 50 million order, he would basically eat up all the ask side. So
yeah.
Now, of course, given it was on an AMM, there's also MEV, so he got front run and back run, which is very easy when you see such a big order on such an illiquid pool. So that's basically like, I mean, he was kind of asking for it. So I think it's terrible, but he was warned, and it's not so much slippage, it's more the trade itself was ridiculous and shouldn't have been done that way. It should have been like over the counter or something.
Yeah. I think, as you say, right, the platform did highlight and explicitly gave warnings, right, that it's that's high slippage, right, potentially 100% value loss. But the user still carried on and clicked I think it ticked the box, and then obviously that led to what it led to.
Yeah. So maybe we could argue it's an error from Aave to have made the transaction too easy in a sense. I don't know how many boxes he had to tick, but if he only had to if there was only one warning and he ticked it and then it was done, I think that's maybe not enough. I mean, typically in banking, if you do a big transaction or something, you would have to go on the app and you would have to put in your code because they know that it's risky, and so they want to warn you, and it should be more difficult than just one tick. Obviously, again, I don't know exactly what he signed, what he accepted, but maybe they should make it more difficult, or maybe they should make the warning bigger. I don't know, but the error itself comes from the user performing as something he should have done.
Yeah.
And it was just one tick. Actually, it was on mobile, and allegedly he just missed that he was just accepting this amazing trade. And I think, like you said, maybe it's a lesson for us at Kascad or any DApp builders. We should make it a bit more complicated for people to accept that they are actually going to screw themselves by accepting this crazy trade. It should be less straightforward. You should have more steps. It's still permissionless, so you have the right to fail, right? But it should be more warning for the user. So yeah, we are thinking about this.
Yeah, it does have implication within obviously what you guys are doing, right? It was on X everywhere, right? And I think there was a lot of confusion back and forth. So Eliott, the core issue, as you're highlighting, right, is It was a massive order. $50 million is a lot of money, right? But it was against very tiny pool liquidity, right? I guess I understand from the user perspective. Of course, he made the sort of, call there, and obviously he missed out and didn't see, or whatever reason, the platform, the UI wasn't clear, the colors, weren't there. I don't know. But I think it still is a big loss, right?
I think that AMMs are just not viable products. I personally don't like them too much because they were developed because of the lack of capabilities of DeFi at the time in reproducing limit order books. But limit order books have always been the way to trade, the most natural way, and to avoid. So basically, you're introducing new problematics. For example, being MEV'd like that would not be possible on a limit order book because of price time priority. So if I want to place my order before him, I essentially cannot, because I can place a buy order before him, but to back run it, it's not possible. So
no, it's impossible on an order book style DEX. If it was, it can happen, but not that much, not $50 million.
You can front run, but you can't back run it unless the order is bigger than the whole order book. So
yeah.
So essentially, that's one point, which is MEV introduced because of AMMs, and I think AMMs are not interesting, especially on Kaspa, where we have the throughput to go faster, and now there are, like, DeFi has improved to a point where decentralized limit order books can be done. So I just don't think that. I think AMMs will disappear slowly because of certain things like this. Like, losing this much money is ridiculous. It should not be possible.
Yeah, I think
even on a back.
Yeah, they do have some advantages, I must say, over order book style DEX. But yes, I think generally after Hyperliquid, Aster, I think we've seen a little bit of that. People are starting to consider these platforms as, like, okay, they are a replacement for AMM style DEXs.
It's just more natural trading, right? Sure, maybe you don't have the yield in, okay, I can just deposit my assets in the pool, make some money on the fees, but then you can introduce vaults on limit order books, etc. But it's just ridiculous to have someone be able to lose that much money and people able to walk out with millions for having done absolutely nothing. So yeah.
It was. I think it was I think, just as you said, the user only got 327 Aave, which was 35,000. I think the MEV got $10 million. That's crazy to even think about it, right? And then the block builder Titan, I think they got 34 million out of it, right? So that's how the money got spread from the user to the builder to the MEV, right? Crazy to think about it. But anyways, it happened, right? So, and I think Aave went through and they actually build a safeguard, right? I think they've gone through the proposal, and I believe they've got this safeguard in place now, where if you do any swaps that has more than 25% of the price impact, I think they don't let you do the trade. I believe that's the case. I don't know if you looked at it. It's called Aave Shield.
Yeah, but again, I think these are patch solutions to a profoundly imperfect model, and you try to patch it with these constants, which for your next question will probably be interesting for the $27 million problem. But you're fundamentally, it's problematic because you're saying, okay, this attack happened. So, if we can even call it an attack, this happened, so we're going to patch it this way. And then if there's something that happens in a about similar manner, but that doesn't work and even 25%, it still means you can have 25% price impact, get MEV'd, and lose. If I put 50 million on an illiquid pool, I'll lose maybe 10 million instead of 49, but like it's still too much. Like the problem hasn't been solved at all.
Yeah. And I think that's the maths that you're discussing, right? Like typically these AMMs have this X multiply Y equals to K, right? That's the maths, that's the cause here that led to this, right? Because it's not looking for the liquidity on the other side. It's saying, well, someone did this, I'll just do whatever trade I need to do to get there, to give the user what they're requesting, which wouldn't happen obviously on the order book decks, right? There is no magic formula as such, right? It's really based on the sell order at different prices, right? If that matches it, you'll obviously do the trade. At least for the Kaspa community, it's good for them to actually learn and obviously get to know about these issues, because I think that's the advantage we have within the Kaspa community, right? That we can learn from all these mistakes that has happened outside. So let's move on to the second one, right? So this is the one, I think that's even weirder for a lot of people, because that was the Oracle glitch where actually a bunch of users lost $27 million, right? $27 million got liquidated on Aave itself because of Aave's Oracle glitch. So what caused that glitch?
Yeah, so it's about similar to how Aave patched the 50 million one. Basically, they had a wrapped Ethereum token, and in order to avoid attacks from maybe flash loans or potential attacks that could manipulate that price, in the same way you would think as a time-weighted average price, what they do is, given there's yield on this asset, they cap the yield on, say, a 3-day time window, or 3 or 6 days. Basically, I look back and I'll be like, okay, during this time, if there's natural growth, the price shouldn't increase by more than 3%. And the problem with that is two things. If it increases by more than 3% naturally, then you're just screwed. And this is basically what happened in a way. And also, this is why I don't like time-weighted average price, is you don't reflect the actual price. Like when I'm trading, when I need a price, I don't want the price averaged over the 5 last days. I want the price now. How much are people willing to pay? I'll buy or sell this asset. So in order to fix this kind of potential Oracle attack, which is an attack vector, they capped the price increase. And then there was naturally, there was a problem in the timestamp that was looking too far back because it didn't update correctly. And basically, it said, okay, the price increase has been more than 3%, so we're going to cap the price. Instead of reflecting the real price, they reflected something lower. And now all your loans are under collateralized and people get liquidated. So all the liquidation process is very natural. There's no problem here. Liquidators saw under collateralized loans, so they just went in. But the problem comes from this taking a constant to say, okay, 3%, if it moves higher, it's not natural. You shouldn't do that, because sure, you're trying to patch a problem. You're trying to patch an attack vector with a solution that is specific to that attack vector. The problem when you do that is that you create other attack vectors or other potential problematics. And that's just imperfect. That's not the way you go about it. And this is maybe what I'm afraid for the 50 million order is you patch exactly this, but now you don't know what you've introduced with this new constant.
Yeah, that's very typical, right? Patching always leads to eventually, maybe not right away. I think right away it helps with the problem, but I think eventually it might break something somewhere else. We just don't know where it breaks. But yes, I think this one was weird. And I think Aave did refund all the money, I believe, to all the 34 wallets, I think, that got affected by it. It was done, as you say, right? It was the price discrepancy between two different data they were reading, I believe. Safety tool, they call it CAPO, Correlated Asset Price Oracle. and there was just a price discrepancy between WST ETH, I believe, right? Between what it was measuring across different assets.
A problem between the timestamp, like how far they were looking back, and basically they took a price that was too low, projected it, and said, okay, the price now is too high, so we're going to cap it down. And yeah, that just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere, I think it's, sometimes these things get very confusing because you don't know exactly what led to this, right? But somewhere I actually read one of the tweets I read that it was in one of the, in Capo, one developer actually changed some settings recently, but he forgot to change the settings on the other file. to get them to peg to look at the same data at the same time. So that led to the discrepancy in the price and hence the liquidations.
I mean, even when I was trying to understand what happened, it's so confusing that my intuition is kind of like, if you guys can't explain it well enough in a way that makes it clear for me, it probably means that your process itself is not, it's not clear. It's not good enough. Normally, if you're convinced that something works, you should be able to explain it in a way where, like, okay, the problem came exactly from here, and it cannot happen again but it can, and the solution is just not perfect anyways. So yeah, it's the same thing of just constantly trying to patch problems, and at the end of the day, you create new attack vectors, and it's sad to see that happen in DeFi after so long. Like, you'd think Aave is an established protocol, they can kind of deal with oracles, but again, like all these attack vectors on what's the price, how do we update it, how do we avoid flash loans, etc. It's an unsolved problem, and you can just see now how big of a problem it is. I mean, there's been chain link errors and everything, and it's a single point of failure for DeFi.
It's kind of sad to even be discussing Aave and saying single point of failure. That's not what's supposed to happen, right? In a decentralized, I mean, we're calling it DeFi, right? That shouldn't happen. Where did the $27 million gone? I didn't actually look into that. So it went to Aave's wallet and then they reimbursed that money. Did you look at where the 27 million got?
It went to liquidators. If the loan is under collateralized, then any liquidator can come in and buy back, and so they made the profit. Maybe Aave bought back some of it, so they had them to reimburse, but it's a natural process, and it just leaves because that's how it should leave if the loans were really under collateralized.
I mean, Aave can also liquidate some positions, but it's also depending on external liquidators. So I don't know if they convince liquidators to actually give the money back, but eventually they repaid. So that's the good end of the story. Temporary, I would say, but still a problem.
But don't they run their own liquidators? I believe they have their own liquidators as well.
They do, but in a way, if you want to capture the whole 27 million, that means you have to front run everyone. If you're faster, then sure, but if someone else is faster, an independent liquidator, then there's nothing you can do about that.
No. Liquidators are really fascinating, man. I think the last time we caught up, I did say, I want to sit down with you guys to focus on liquidators. We never got around to it. Perhaps one session we'll discuss liquidators. So let's move forward, all right, with Kascad, right? So why don't we jump straight into the demo? Why don't we, just do that rather than me asking you questions?
Sure. Keep asking your questions. We like that. Yeah. So the DApp is currently live on testnet on the Igra Galleon network.
Beautiful.
And by the way, Ankit, I think Pavel just posted a nice little feature on Igra. So basically, there is this feature that whoever connects to the Kascad DApp for the first time is going to have his wallet triggered the configuration of the Igra Galleon network automatically. So it means that you won't have to manually set up your custom network on your wallet anymore. Right now, we are still really depending on this, but for everyone who's looking to set his MetaMask wallet or any wallet to the Igra Galleon network, you will have to go to igralabs.gitbook.io, select network info, and you have all the information that you need there. In my case, I've already done it, so I can't demo how to do that. And we haven't implemented Pavel's solution to automatically trigger your network configuration, but we will do this in the next days. So basically, you connect to the DApp, you connect your wallet, you say, yes, I want to connect, and you enter this dashboard. The idea we had with this dashboard is to compile all the necessary information on what's happening on your wallet, on your position, health factor in one page. And I think it's working fine now because you can understand what's happening on the platform in terms of total TVL, how much earning you are generating, what's your TVL portfolio share, so how much of a share of the total TVL your portfolio is actually contributing into Kascad, and you have your overall health factor that is evolving between 1 and infinite, and you want to always get higher than 1 in order to avoid liquidation risks. So basically, what we are presenting is how much you have supplied on your wallet, how much you have borrowed, how much APY you are generating with your supplying position. That is, I remember I repeated that you are getting paid by borrowers for using your liquidity. So this is how you are generating revenue, earnings. So you can see how much debt I have, how much supply collateral I have been providing. I am now sitting at 2.22 health factor, which is still healthy. It doesn't mean that it's not at risk. It doesn't mean that I will never get liquidity, but it means that I have a large collateral enough to compensate for how much I borrow if the price of the assets I'm supplying were to evolve in the downside. But eventually, personally, I would like to have this health factor a bit higher. In my case, and I can show you how to do this. And finally,
very safe, huh? You're not risking here, even on testnet.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be risk averse, even on testnet, but we are also stress testing the system. But one highlight here, Ankit, is how we have integrated the claim center and the Kascad token into the logic of the game theory of the Kascad platform. Meaning that on Kascad, you can only claim to earn Kascad tokens if you oblige to certain rules. And those rules are you have to supply a minimal amount of liquidity, and for a minimal amount of time. And we measure your position over time, and we weight your position against all the other participants on a 30-day basis, which means that at the end of the 30 days, we can say for sure, verifiably, that you have provided this much liquidity for all those days, which means that as compared to other participants, you have the right to claim this amount of Kascad token, which means that it compounds to your initial base average APY that you are generating as a supplier. And you earn those Kascad tokens on top of your base APY, which means that in my case, I'm generating 6% more in a Kascad token on top of my 6 base APY. So you can see that I have the right to claim of almost 55k Kascad tokens today. So I can just claim it if you want. I can just confirm the transaction with my wallet. I just wait. And now I have claimed it, and I can just continue with my day. I'm still accumulating some Kascad based on my current position, and I will have to wait for the end of the epoch, which is simulated in 4 days on testnet because we want to run more cycles, and I have to wait an extra 1 day and 17 hours to learn to see how much Kascad I can claim for the next year.
This is airdrops, right? So it'll be Kascad airdrop. Is it? I mean, I don't know if you're drawing that parallel, but for me, that's what it looks like.
it's not airdrop because it's directly tied to your on-chain activity. So it's not like how you have this amount of Kascad on your wallet. It's really verifying how much you are contributing to the liquidity of the platform on an epoch basis. It means that if someone were to drop 1 million on Kascad, he would fulfill the first condition of supplying a minimal amount of TVL, which is cool. But the second condition is you have to provide liquidity for a certain amount of time for each epoch. And in our case, the bare minimum is like 87.5% of the epoch. It means that if you want to claim, you have to be there for at least 24 days to be able to claim extra Kascad rewards. So you can't really game the system.
Got it. I think airdrop is more of a generic term.
Yeah.
One of the biggest one was Uniswap, during the DeFi summertime. And they obviously incentivize people to put more liquidity towards the platform, right? And the pools, early base, right? So the similar thing, of course, it's not like you're just dropping those coins to someone's wallet.
Oh no.
You obviously have to provide liquidity, and you get incentivized for providing liquidity. So it helps both parties essentially.
Yes, it's a way for us to reward active participants. So it means that you can always just come and go and just provide $5 worth of TVL and leave the next day, right? It's permissionless. You can do whatever you want, and you will still earn your base APY paid by the borrowers. But if you want to generate more yield, then we have this rule on top, this incentivization layer that tells you that, hey, if you want extra Kascad on top of your APY, you need to provide for a longer time and a minimal amount. So yes, this is the main page, so you can see how much I'm supplying for each asset. USDC, wrap BTC, wrap ETH, ICAS, Igra, Kascad. This is a testnet environment, so we are simulating all the assets. These are not real assets. This is not real liquidity. We are just simulating the environment with some real smart contract interactions that we will run on Mainnet. But it helps people to test the platform for free without any financial engagement whatsoever. And we also created this faucet that allows people, any user who connects to the app, to actually claim directly some ICAS without trying to bridge it from another app. You can also mint daily a certain amount of fake USDC, fake BTC, fake Ethereum, fake Igra, and every day you can accumulate more assets and you can try to game the system that is Kascad. You can withdraw, you can supply more, you can do whatever you want. You can always leave when you want, and you can also track how much daily interest you are generating and how much debt you are accumulating as well. So it's a simple system, but you can see easily what's happening on your positions.
Sorry, before you go forward, I wanted to say I do like the UI. I think I always like the UI. Even last time you guys presented, I think it was beautiful. So it looks the same. I do like the color. I do like, I think, again, your branding, just stands out, right? Like it's just easier to see things here compared to a lot of other lending and borrowing. One question, how many assets you're going to start with, right? How many assets you'll have to start with upfront?
So we will start, and this is coming from the partnership with Hyperlane, right? And it has been confirmed by Igra and Ashton. So we know that we will have USDC coming from multiple routes. So we know that people using USDC on base, for example, will be able to bridge directly to Igra mainnet. We will have so multiple EVM chains will be supported for USDC. One single route for USDT. We will also have wrap Ethereum, staked Ethereum as well. Another stable coin, I can't remember the name, and wrap BTC also a bit later after Igra's mainnet launch. And then the idea is to run a poll and ask the community which type of assets they would like to be accessible on Igra next, basically. So we will start with high liquid assets only.
Cool. So how many were there? 5 or 6 to start with?
Yes. So on testnet, we are trying to simulate what we will have on Mainnet available. With a slight detail, we are actually showing Igra and Kascad, but it doesn't mean that the day we launch, we will allow people to borrow against their Igra or borrow against their Kascad, because we will wait for the tokens to be liquid enough and less volatile, because you never know what's happening on the first days and weeks of a token launch. So we will wait for the right moment. The idea is always to provide assets, borrowables that are liquid enough. Otherwise, you are putting people at risk with high volatility.
Good point. I think what you're, I guess, highlighting, if I can summarize it,
Yes.
when the tokens go live, they can be very volatile. Like they can go 100% up and then 30%, 40% down. And that means obviously it breaks your entire health scores, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you want it to become a little bit stable before you let those assets in on the platform.
And what we will do actually, and I'm going to show you why, for Kascad specifically, we will allow the token to be borrowable only in its staked form, which means that we have a system in the governance that allow people to stake their Kascad token, and this way accumulate a certain share of the staking pool. And we calculate how much Kascad tokens are staking, how much liquidity they have been providing and are still providing, and this is what gives us the formula for their final voting power. So there is a utility directly embedded into the Kascad token on top of being the incentivization for people to add more liquidity and more steady liquidity. We also allow people to actively log their Kascad tokens, stake them, and we calculate their voting power, and this unlocks their ability to actually vote for any adjustment of the platform parameters that will be applied for the next epoch. But it also means that at some point, people who stake will receive a stake Kascad in their wallet, and they will be able to borrow against those stake Kascad.
Right. So they can borrow against the staked Kascad token as well. That's very cool. Actually, it's similar to Aave,
Yes.
right? They have staked Aave tokens.
Yeah, and stake is basically this is the main philosophy behind.
Yeah.
But wrapped into the governance access on Kascad. Our system is you can tweak and adjust all the governance parameters. Granted, you are a voter, so granted you are actually providing on-chain liquidity on the platform, and you are also stacking your Kascad tokens. So you are showing proof, on-chain proof that you are actively participating in the platform. And this way you can, I can't show it now because the voting is not open. We have to wait. But you can decide what's the minimum amount that someone needs to supply in order to claim Kascad tokens on top of it. You can decide how much uptime. You can decide what's the minimal LTV for borrowers to gain even more Kascad. You can decide how much of the fees that the platform generates can actually go to the Kaspa desk fund wallet, for example. So we have this embedded in our code. No matter how many fees the platform is generating, a certain amount will always go to the Kaspa DevCore fund wallet.
That's very cool. I did not know that you are giving or will be giving based on the fees 5.7% back to the core dev fund. That's very cool.
Yes, so the DAO can adjust. It can say, oh, we want to give less, or we want to give more. And eventually, you can track everything that's happening in terms of revenue. And the rules that we have, the immutable rules that we have, Ankit, is all of the platform revenues that we are making from the spread we get from the borrower interest that borrowers pay to suppliers. We get a little share from this. So we make revenue out of the total TVL that we have, the liquidity. And all those revenues, they are going to be split into two big treasury vaults. One is the DAO treasury. So 65% of all the Kascad revenue goes to this DAO treasury. And we cannot change that. It will be immutable from day one. And 35% goes to the operational treasury. So it helps the team to manage liquidity, partnerships, infrastructure. It helps us scale. And there is a clear separation between those two revenues, meaning that the DAO Treasury can manage all this revenue throughout the year and decide how to reallocate the fees to active participants, how to reallocate to different wallet, how to buy back, and this is all on chain.
I see. Have you guys looked into how Aave does it? Their operational treasury versus the DAO treasury? Like, do they have similar structure, or you guys came up with this sort of unique, interesting way?
It's more our own way of dealing with how we want to incentivize active participants and what we want to achieve. Because our goal with Kascad is to be a mainlanded central platform for the whole Kaspa ecosystem, which means that we need to be willing to share the benefits and the success of the platform with the people who actually contribute to its success. This is how you scale, right? So I'm not sure Aave is doing the same because they have had some issues between the DAO and the Aave labs. You've seen those stories.
Recently, right? Like,
so Aave was pushing some services, and those services were generating some revenue, but the revenue wasn't shared to the DAO. So the DAO was claiming that this revenue should actually belong to the DAO, and there was some back and forth. And you can't have this on Kascad because all the revenue streams are going immutably to those two vaults, and the team cannot access the DAO treasury, and the DAO treasury cannot access the team treasury. So there is a clear separation. We cannot change it whatsoever, and everything that happens is shared.
That's very good. That's very good. So it was 60 and 35, or 65 or 35?
65 and 35, yes. Yeah.
65 and 35. Okay, got it.
Yes. So we have quite a comprehensive platform that allows people to find some competitive yields. Because right now, for example, we are simulating 6 billion fake TVL with fake assets, of course, but I'm still someone who will be able to supply 1.4 million, will be able to generate a 12.5% APY with this system, which is highly competitive, and competitivity is super important for us because we need valuable reason for people to come to Kascad and to discover the Kaspa ecosystem, and not just, I'm going to go to Kaspa because I like Kaspa. If we are only offering 2% APY, people are going to stay on Aave or on Morpho, right? It's obvious. So I think the Hyperlane deal and the fact that Igra is now coming to Mainnet is a good cocktail because we are opening the gate for existing liquidity to actually discover us on Kaspa. And this way we can provide competitive APY, get people interested and curious about us, and then we can scale and make Kaspa more discoverable for humans and also for agents, because this is something that we are also preparing for.
Yeah. Aave's biggest user base is the institutions and market makers, right? So are you guys in discussions with institutions or market makers or arbitragers, like that'll be the other one, that are typically the ones that are really, they need the money right away. They want to provide collateral and just borrow because they see some arbitrage opportunity somewhere. So what's been the discussion like?
Well, the discussion is, and I'm glad you asked this question, Ankit, is how can we make ourselves discoverable for institutions and big players? And it mostly comes down to how compliant we are as a product, and this is why we made such efforts to be fully doxed and to have a real token company with all the legal authorization to perform our services, lending services, and this is why we build the tokenomics this way, to have the full MiCA compliance in how we aggregate fees and the utility of the token. And this is also why we have a legal opinion listing the Kascad token as a utility token officially. We have the paper, we shared it on X, which means that should an institution be interested in our yield opportunities, they would be safe in doing so, and we will have all the arguments to say, hey, you can come to us because we have everything that you need. So we have been talking with some institutions like this, but we are still in early days because we need to show proof of liveliness, basically. But we know that we are prepared for that.
Yeah. Proof of liveliness means we need to show a Kaspa ecosystem humming and growing. And
Yes.
there is a lot of DEXs, a lot of order books, AMM style DEXs where money is moving around, where institutions see the opportunity to come in, right? End of the day, for institutions, they wanna make money, right? Bloody hell, they wanna make money. Why else?
Yes, that's the reality of the market, right? I mean, yeah, so we built a system that generates actually real revenue, and we share it. And I think I need to remember that we are a product, Ankit. So yes, we are super excited to launch on Igra because it allows us to build what we are building now, and we couldn't before. But eventually, the moment Covenant and vProgs are ready and allow us to extend our services to Kaspa L2, we will do it, obviously, because there are people there who are looking for direct sovereignty and different interaction with their assets on native Kaspa. And like, we are happy to also build on this, and this is what we shared in our white paper. We want to be a good product on everything Kaspa, basically.
How will it work with Hyperlane's stable coins, right? Because that's where the stable coins gonna come from with your Oracle solution. Because obviously the Oracle price, the price that you're fetching from was few of the centralized exchanges, assets coming from Hyperlane, but Oracle's obviously trying to pull the prices from somewhere else.
I mean, well, what's the specific problem if we pull from Hyperlane, wrap the asset, and get the price from?
So Hyperlane provides you the price because Hyperlane is giving you the asset, right? Let's talk about Ethereum, right? Like, you're pulling the asset from Ethereum, but your Oracle is pulling the data from somewhere else, right? Some centralized exchanges. Will the price be the same? Because you're doing some averages yourself, right?
That's a good question. I haven't dug into Hyperlane, but that's actually something pretty interesting.
Yeah, because I know price deviation can happen, and man, this is exactly, I mean, those are the issues we've seen time and time again, right?
Yeah.
Asset here versus asset B. Like, if it's not the same, then you better be careful. But that's cool. That's cool. Something for you guys to look at. And outside of that, Jack, anything we haven't covered on the demo side?
Yeah, I think what we haven't covered is that we are also preparing for fully agentic compatibility on Kascad, because we believe that in the near future, most interaction will be performed by AI agents. So you have to build this whole readable, discoverable layer, interactable layer for AI agents, and this is something that I know Igra is also building, and I know that Kaspa Core is also anticipating this type of interaction between how humans supervise agents to actually find and fetch information, or also build on top of Kaspa. And there are actually multiple steps that you have to build in order for your app to be prepared for that. And it's interesting work we are doing now.
I mean, no matter what, everyone will move towards that direction, and I think Kaspa is well positioned for it, obviously.
Yes. So eventually, your UI doesn't matter in the long term, because most agents won't care about how beautiful your app is, but they will care how much readability they can have, and what are the yield opportunity, and if they understand the strategies they can develop on your app. So you have to prepare for that, and yeah, we are doing that already.
Now, I wanted to say to the audience, right? If anyone is building any agents on Kaspa, please reach out. I think it's an area that I don't think I've come across anyone on Kaspa building any agents so far, right? So if you happen to know anyone, or if you yourself building, please reach out. I'd love to get you on the show. But that's amazing, guys. I mean, I must say, as I said before, the platform looks stunning. I think I'm sure you guys have thought a lot about each and every part of it, which is obviously important. So perhaps let me ask you, it feels to me that Wall Street is rushing to crypto, right? Like, I think for a long time I felt that crypto was rushing to Wall Street, but it seems now it's flipped. Have you guys considered or looking at tokenized assets?
I'm interested in RWA, obviously, but it comes down to the same Oracle problem that we discussed earlier, right? If you can't fetch the proper prices of assets, then your service is not really perfect. So I think we are more looking into how we can make Eliott's Oracle the best Oracle there is, and make it applicable, than rushing into RWA. And I think we are also, I think our narrative is more, how can we make Kascad the best lending in everything Kaspa, meaning how can we also eventually build the best application on layer 1, and how can we make it fully readable by AI agents, than just being builders on RWA. I think we have more potential in this direction. So we want to encompass everything, but the Oracle is central in this decision. So we are more focused on the Oracle now.